Again, Joe, I think, and I'm going to let Chip respond, but there's a difference between the regulation, obviously, and who's in office in certain capacities to enforce it. That strikes me as an issue you take up with Cynthia Kaufman, and if you're unhappy with the Attorney General, and she's, of course, leaving that office anyway, you elect an Attorney General, and certainly you tried to do that personally, and we appreciate that effort, who will be more consistent in that enforcement.
Right. Or, Aaron, you have citizen-led initiatives to finally put it down on oil and gas, saying this is unacceptable.
All right, I'm gonna let you all respond. Who wants to jump in? There's quite a bit there to tackle, Tracy.
Yeah, there's a whole lot there. I'll let my colleagues share in this with me. But first of all, these are not industry numbers that Representative Salazar just threw up. These come from the Common Sense Policy Roundtable, a nonpartisan, unbiased.
And you're talking about the economic numbers.
I'm talking about the numbers, the devastating numbers that we've been reciting that will happen as a result of this measure. Right? Those are not our numbers. These are independent numbers that, by the way, this same group does economic analysis on any and all economic affected ballot measures. So these are not industry numbers.
And I'm just out of curiosity, and I want you to continue on to your other point, but first, does this measure create any liability for taxpayers, for citizens of Colorado in that? Clearly, if this passes and if the numbers, even if they don't come close to the 85% figure that you quoted, Chip, certainly many companies will lose the value of billions of dollars of assets. Has there been any discussion about what the potential liability could be, or is there none? Joe, you could actually jump in on this, but I'd like to hear from you all first.
To me, it's more about the state of Colorado, I'll be honest with you. When I look at this thing, I mean, it's impacting our companies, no doubt about it. But to me, it's the devastating effects that are going to happen to families in Colorado. These are families that want to make better generations for their kids. And you're going to have a huge hole out here. Tax dollars that are not going to be a revenue, they're not going to come into this state. We have a Tabor cap. How is that hole going to be replaced? It's going to be almost impossible. This is going to be a devastating effect to our state.
And I just know that we are doing the right thing for the health and safety of our families. And I know and love Colorado, and our teachers, I used to be a teacher, our teachers deserve better money.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment on each side. First of all, you mentioned big industry. I think one of the things that we should reconcile is just because an industry or a company is big doesn't mean it's bad. So personally, I don't like the reference that, it's just a quick emotional reference. I'm not big on that. On the industry side, I would be really interested if this measure fails. What kind of leadership can we expect from oil and gas companies to address these concerns, which are clearly heartfelt and very sincere concerns? I'm going to let all three of you answer because you're in very different positions. I mean, Tracy is head of the Colorado Petroleum Council, and you've been involved in, you were on Governor Hickenlooper's staff in the past, a wide variety of background there. Chip, I mean, your company is global in scope, and of course, you're right in the trenches, Craig, with SRC. So what can we expect the industry to do if this doesn't pass? I'll start with you, Tracy.
Sure, appreciate that. So right now, as we speak, we are having discussions with the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission on, is there a way we can increase setbacks from school boundaries, and without hindering our economics, right? Without hindering the economies of our local communities. Industry has continuously and will continue to step up to the table and have these very important discussions. Contrary to what you heard earlier, the answer is not always no. I can list off a dozen times right now that we have said yes, including this past session. We are having discussions right now with interested folks, including school districts, on what it could look like if we were to increase our setbacks from school boundaries.
All right. Craig.
I would echo the fact that simply I'm a little astonished that we brought up Firestone. Firestone would not, setbacks would have not done anything for Firestone. That was a very sincere tragedy. The reaction of that is exactly what you'd see going forward, and we're trying to be proactive, not reactive, and in this case it had to be reactive because there was a tragedy. We stood down and we worked with the state and we put new flow line rules in place immediately. We've always had a seat and a negotiation and a position And yes, we've said yes many times, and we've been told no many times. It's been a unison work for an industry that moves the economy in Colorado.
All right, and certainly, I mean, Anadarko went the extra mile, shutting down something like 3,000 wells in addressing those issues that you raised. Chip, I'm going to give you a hard time, and then you can respond to some of this. And the idea that because money has come from out of state, that this is a bad idea. And I got to tell you, I think most Coloradans would say there are actually good ideas that come from people who don't necessarily live in Colorado. We don't have all the good ideas ourselves. So just because money comes from out of state, to me, doesn't mean an idea is bad. It's better to look at the concept, and if you think the concept of this measure is bad, which I know you do, you have enough arguments against it. I'm not big on the emotional, it's out-of-state money, so-and-so's writing a check. But go ahead. You were going to respond to my question about what will the industry do to address these very sincere concerns should 112 not pass?
Well, let me go back one more second before we say that. This is a band. This is meant to be a band. This is not around safety. This is to put oil and gas out of the state, which is detrimental and huge for our state. So if it does pass, our state is in severe problems. It's devastating. Now, if it doesn't pass, we've had a history. Noble's always had a history of working with people, finding the right ways. I've got 700 people that live up here. They're friends, they're family members. We love Colorado. Many of them are born and raised in Colorado, have little kids. We want to make sure this is the best state in the country. We will always work with everybody and anybody to find those ways. That's the Colorado way. So when I reference dollars coming out of Washington, D.C., I don't know if they're always that way. I believe the Colorado way is the best way to go, to work together. We've done it historically in our entire lives. We've gone through the entire process. From setbacks, have gone from 150 to 350 to 500 to 1,000, and the strongest setbacks in the country. So if they have studies, and we have studies, well, let's look at them. Let's work away. This is a detrimental impact. This is overreaching for the state. It's not the Colorado way. And every Democrat, every candidate across who's running right now is against it, or most of them.
All right. I guess, and I'll let you all, I know we're running out of time, respond. Certainly, I think we all agree that people who have the greatest concerns about oil and gas activity don't feel that they have the authority or a real role, a significant role in the decision-making process. I think many feel they do have a seat at the table, but that doesn't mean that what they say necessarily is going to have much impact. Is there a way, short of something like this, and this strikes me, this measure may be due to this frustration, is there a way to give opponents of the industry, or people who are most concerned about the industry's activity, a greater say, more than just a seat at the table, while not destroying the industry? Is there something in between that would work for the industry, which I know you wouldn't be excited about, but which would be far better than the ban that you're arguing is going to occur? Has anybody thought about that? And you talked about compromise, so I'm asking you.
I mean, there always is compromise. But when you have a proposal that's for a ban, that's not compromise. And that's what it is. When you look at, when you go 2,500 feet, to your point, you can go beyond 2,500 feet. I've got flow lines I can't get out. This is a ban. This gets oil and gas out of the state. We're always looking for compromise, finding better ways. As I said before, Aaron, we have family members, loved ones, people we know in this state. We want this to be the best state there is. And we're going to continue to find compromise.
All right,
but this is overreaching.
But every oil and gas company is not noble either. So I think that's one of the arguments they'd make. Tracy, give me a quick comment, and then I would like you all to have your say.
Sure. I'm so proud to represent member companies who do this every day, all day long. If not, and most of the time, Aaron, honestly, it's on a one-on-one basis. They're visiting with the families. They're visiting with the homeowners saying, what can we do to make life a little better while we're getting the product? What can we do? If we can adjust, we will. That happens every day, and that's not being talked about here. So let's be very clear about that, 98% of the time. Second of all, when it comes to the local government level, there are so many tools that we employ along with citizens and local governments to make adjustments for those local communities. We've used MOUs in the past. Those are very...
Memorandums of understanding.
That's exactly right. Those can be very effective. There are numerous places right now for people to plug in. Now, what happens is when you disagree with the decision, then it's all of a sudden we haven't been heard and we don't have a bigger seat at the table. But I can tell you, Again, we do this for a living 98% of the time. We work very well with residents, with citizens, and with local governments.